Today, I'm going to share a story that will surely touch your heart. It's about a near-death experience that gave me a direct encounter with God and a surprising revelation. Day 0 is approaching. In April 2025, something significant will happen to humanity, and I'm here to reveal everything I witnessed. Before I proceed, leave a comment with the city you're watching this video from, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any incredible stories like this one. Now, get ready to discover what lies beyond life. My existence in Los Angeles was like a mosaic of colorless days, where routine and dissatisfaction intertwined in a monotonous dance. I, Quilon Mercer, felt trapped in a labyrinth with no way out, where each day seemed a repetition of the previous one, without finding meaning or passion in what I did. The gleam of the skyscrapers contrasted intensely with the emptiness that inhabited my interior, a bitter irony in a city that never rests. My job in a downtown office was exhausting and devoid of meaning. The fluorescent lights, the incessant ringing of the phone, and the superficial conversations of colleagues created an environment that, instead of inspiring, suffocated my soul. On several occasions, at the end of yet another exhausting day, I would ask myself, why am I living? These doubts echoed in my mind as I walked the streets of Los Angeles, observing the crowd that seemed to have a defined destination, while I got lost in solitary thoughts. Quilon, you seem so distant today. Is everything okay? Asked Evelyn Knight one morning, noticing my melancholic expression during a coffee break. I don't know, Evelyn. I feel like I'm living without purpose, as if each day is just a repetition of the last, I replied, trying to hide the anguish consuming me. Evelyn, always so empathetic, looked at me tenderly and said, maybe you need something to reignite your flame, something that brings new meaning to your life. Despite having friends like her, and even colleagues like Damien Carter, with whom I used to share confidences about the monotony of daily life, a feeling of misunderstanding and loneliness accompanied me every step of the way. Damien once commented during one of those late-night conversations after work, Quilon, we all feel this restlessness, this emptiness. But sometimes it's as if we're destined for something greater, something we can't yet see. These words resonated in my mind, but in practice, I found myself drowning in doubts and insecurities. At home, the silence was also a painful reminder that, despite having a family that loved me, I felt misunderstood. Conversations with my mother, Sophia Mercer, were always marked by deep affection, but also by a distance I couldn't overcome. Her concern showed in every word, but I couldn't share with her the intensity of the void consuming me. Each day was a silent battle against boredom and lack of direction. Mornings began with the same routine: coffee, chaotic traffic, endless meetings, and the feeling that time was slipping through my fingers. Walking the streets of Los Angeles at night provided moments of reflection, but also increased the sense of helplessness, as I saw hurried faces and lights that shone without truly illuminating the path to happiness. Despite all these difficulties, I sought a glimmer of hope in small moments. A friend's voice, an unexpected smile, or even the subtle beauty of a sunset over the city were the only reminders that perhaps there was more to be discovered. However, these moments were fleeting, and the feeling of emptiness returned with force, leaving me increasingly convinced that my existence lacked a true purpose. This was my reality before the accident, a life filled with doubts, loneliness, and the constant search for a greater meaning. Each day passed like a shadow of the previous one, until a series of unexpected events was about to completely transform this journey. That night seemed as ordinary as all the others, but fate had an episode in store that would change everything. After a long day at the office, I felt the need to walk the streets of Los Angeles to try to calm the internal storm. The air was cold, and the city lights seemed to whisper dark secrets. As I walked along the sidewalk, the rhythmic sound of my footsteps mingled with the distant murmur of traffic. But at that moment, fate was preparing a twist I could never have foreseen. At the intersection of Sunset Boulevard and Vine Street, the atmosphere suddenly changed. A car, out of control, was speeding towards me, its headlights casting erratic beams that reflected on the wet sidewalk. For a brief moment I was paralyzed, as if time had slowed down in a surreal way. I remember hearing the deafening roar of the engine, followed by a muffled scream that seemed to echo in my mind. No! Please! I almost shouted to myself, but my voice was lost in the whirlwind of emotions and the deafening sound of the impending impact. In the blink of an eye, I was hit with brutal force. The pain that followed was so intense it seemed to have sprung from a spark of pure agony. My body, once so familiar, became a shapeless object, fragmented into pieces of sensation and despair. It was as if every fiber of my being was being torn apart, and I felt like my own body was unraveling. As the pain overwhelmed my senses, something strange began to happen. Amidst the chaos, I noticed a sense of detachment, as if I were observing everything from the outside, no longer trapped in that fragile shell. I saw the doctors running, the tense faces of the paramedics, and the confusion around. And, at the same time, an inexplicable calm invaded my consciousness. Quailan, hold on. You're going to be okay. I heard a voice, perhaps my own, echo amidst the turmoil, though the words lost any logical meaning in the face of what was happening. It was at that moment that my soul, in an indescribable way, began to detach from my body. I was no longer limited to physical contours but was experiencing a freedom I had never imagined. I floated above the chaos, observing with an almost ethereal clarity the efforts of the paramedics to revive my lifeless body. Every movement, every attempt at resuscitation happened with a precision that seemed choreographed by fate. As the doctors worked frantically, I felt a mix of fear and strangeness. The anguish of seeing my inert body mingled with a sense of peace, as if the physical pain had been replaced by a comforting calm. This duality made me question. Was I really dying, or was there something more beyond the boundary between life and death? In a last glimpse, before surrendering completely to the darkness, I caught fragments of dialogues, gestures of despair and hope. A nurse, with tears in his eyes, whispered, "We can't lose you, Quailan. You have so much to live for." Those words, now distant and at the same time eternal, resonated in my being as the perception of my body became increasingly tenuous. The separation was complete. I was floating above myself, witnessing the final moments of a cycle that was ending to make way for something extraordinary. The pain and fear gave way to a serene acceptance, as if that experience was somehow necessary for the transformation to come. At the moment I felt my soul detach from my body. A strange sensation of lightness took over me. I was floating, far from the screams and chaos that still echoed below. The environment around me gradually transformed. The colors of the traffic lights and the city lights became soft blurs of light, while the agitation dissipated into a welcoming silence. I felt as if I were ascending an invisible staircase, guided by a force that could not be explained in words. As I ascended, every detail seemed to gain an almost palpable intensity. The breeze became sweet, gently caressing my being, and the darkness I expected to find was replaced by a radiant and serene light. The space opened up, revealing a scene that seemed painted by hand. White clouds floated in harmony, interspersed with golden reflections, and a soft glow emanated from every point in the sky. I felt no fear, only a deep curiosity, and a calm that filled every corner of my being. It was in this celestial environment that, suddenly, I saw a figure that would change everything. It approached slowly, enveloped in an intense glow, and with a presence that transcended any description. The angel was dressed in long white robes that seemed to flow like water, and a golden sword shone in its hands with a light that rivaled the sun. Its eyes, full of compassion, met mine, and in an instant, I felt that every particle of my existence was being bathed in infinite love. "Killen, we finally meet," said the angel, its voice resonating with a cadence that mixed strength and tenderness. "Who are you? Why am I here?" I asked, my voice still echoing like an incredulous whisper in the face of such a sublime vision. The angel smiled, and its smile seemed to dispel all the doubts and anxieties I carried. "I am your guardian, sent to guide you in this moment of transformation. You are between two worlds, and the experience you lived is just the first. Essência do museu. A cada cena que passava, percebia que a vida, com todas as suas complexidades, era uma tapeçaria de experiências que me conduziam a um entendimento mais profundo de mim mesmo e do universo ao meu redor. O anjo, sempre ao meu lado, era guia silencioso, permitindo que eu absorvesse cada lição com a clareza e a sabedoria que só o tempo pode proporcionar." En quanto a projeção chegava ao fim, senti uma paz indescritível tomar conta de mim. As imagens que antes me causavam dor agora eram vistas sob uma nova luz, como capítulos de livro que, apesar de suas páginas sombrias, contava uma história de resiliência e crescimento. O anjo, percebendo minha transformação interna, sorriu com benevolência e disse: "Você está pronto para seguir em frente, Quilon. Este é apenas o começo de uma nova jornada, onde a compreensão e a competição serão suas guias." Com essas palavras, senti-me envolto em uma luz cálida e acolhedora, como se estivesse sendo abraçado pelo próprio universo. A sala imensa, que antes parecia cinema celestial, agora se dissolvia em brilho suave, e eu sabia que estava prestes a embarcar em uma nova fase de minha existência, onde a dor do passado se transformaria em sabedoria, e a solidão uma profunda, contudo, ok. A jornada que começou como simples, passo ao lado do anjo agora se expandia para caminho de infinitas possibilidades, onde cada escola seria uma oportunidade de crescimento e cada experiência uma chance de aprender e evoluir. E assim, como o coração leve e a alma renovada, dei o primeiro passo em direção a futuro repleto de esperança e descoberta. The true essence of my being. As I finished the review, the room filled with a comforting light. The images slowly faded, leaving me with a sense of relief and a profound understanding that every experience, no matter how bitter, had a purpose. I realized that my life, with all its flaws and moments of compassion, was a complex mosaic preparing me for the transformation that was to come. When the celestial screen went dark, a new portal opened before me. I felt an irresistible pull, as if a gentle force was calling me to a destiny beyond everything I knew. With the angel by my side, I crossed the portal and, in the blink of an eye, was immersed in a scene that defied any earthly description. Emerging on the other side, I found myself in an environment of indescribable beauty. Before me stretched a vast field of lush green grass, so vibrant it seemed painted with the very essence of life. The flowers, in a kaleidoscope of colors, opened gently to the touch of a warm and delicate breeze, creating a natural carpet inviting a serene walk. I felt as if I had reached a lost paradise, where there were no traces of pain or suffering. "Quilon, look at the perfection of this place," whispered the angel, whose soft and melodious voice echoed like a lullaby. Still amazed, I replied, "It's as if the universe has decided to reveal its most generous face. I never imagined peace could be so palpable." As I walked through that field, each step seemed to release a new wave of serenity. The golden rays of the sun touched my skin gently, and every inch of that soil vibrated with a vital energy that filled all my senses. There was no rush or worry. Everything was harmony and natural beauty that enveloped me completely. In the distance, I saw a lake of crystal-clear waters, where the surface shone as if polished with diamonds. Approaching, I noticed that the water not only reflected the sky but also seemed to emit a soft light, as if it held ancient and sacred secrets. I sat by the lake, allowing the tranquility of that scene to invade every fiber of my being. As I absorbed the environment, I could hear the murmur of nature, the rustling of leaves, the distant song of unknown birds, and in an almost imperceptible instant, the sound of light and happy laughter. "This place is where pain dissipates and the soul regenerates," commented the angel, approaching and sitting beside me. I agreed, feeling that each of his words confirmed what my heart already intuited. Here, anything was possible. I never thought a simple step could lead me to such fullness. I feel as if every problem and sadness were washed away by the purity of this environment. The sense of freedom was complete. Time seemed suspended, and eternity revealed itself in every detail, in every breath of air. The beauty of this paradise was not only in the landscape but also in the sense of belonging that invaded my being. I felt that for a brief moment the scars of life were transformed into mere marks of a distant past, replaced by the promise of a future full of light and possibilities. As the sun slowly began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, the angel extended his hand to me in a gesture that symbolized both welcome and transition. "Quilon, This is a refuge where love and peace reign, a reminder that true beauty lies in the simplicity and purity of existence. Through his eyes, I could feel an ancient wisdom, an understanding that, even in the darkest moments, the universe always reserves a path to redemption. In this idyllic environment, I realized that the journey to paradise was not the end, but rather a preparation for a new stage. I was beginning to understand that inner transformation and reconnection with the essence of life were the true gifts this experience offered me. Every detail, every color, and every sound of that place served as a reminder that, no matter how arduous the journey on earth, there was always a way back to the light, a place where the soul could rest and heal. As the paradisiacal landscape gently faded before me, I was taken to an environment that seemed to transcend any idea of beauty I had ever known. Walking alongside the angel, I felt my senses sharpen, as if every particle around carried a divine meaning. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed, and the scene transformed into a clearing of intense light, where time seemed to stop and reality unfolded in layers of pure energy. At the heart of that clearing, a majestic figure began to take shape, dressed in a white, radiant robe that reflected the colors of an ethereal rainbow, while a golden crown rested upon its head, radiating a serene glow. My heart raced, yet at the same time, an indescribable sense of peace enveloped me. I knew, with a certainty that transcended reason, that I was in the presence of God. The voice echoed, deep and gentle, resonating directly within my soul. Is it you?" I stammered, still unable to believe that such an immense presence was real. The figure approached, emanating an aura of wisdom and compassion. Its eyes, filled with a love that seemed to encompass all existence, met mine with a tenderness that dispelled any trace of fear. "My child," it said, with a voice that carried the weight and lightness of all the universes, "you have been chosen to see the truth that many fear to face. Every experience, every mistake, and every triumph has brought you to this moment of revelation." As these words unfolded, I felt as if every fiber of my being was absorbing a comforting and transformative energy. The environment became a stage where the divine met the human, where my doubts and fears were replaced by a luminous clarity. The colors around me intensified, and a golden light, which seemed to have a life of its own, enveloped us both, as if uniting heaven and earth in that sacred instant. "You carry within you the ability to transform not only your own life, but that of many others," God continued, as a gentle breeze made the threads of my existence dance. "Every action, no matter how small, reverberates through the universe and touches distant souls. Understand that there is no insignificance in your journey, even in moments of weakness." Amid this transcendental conversation, I felt that my scars, both emotional and physical, were dissolving, replaced by a profound understanding that all adversities had been necessary to shape me. The divine presence seemed to whisper ancient secrets, stories of redemption, and the promise of a future where unconditional love would be the greatest of forces. "See, Kwylan," God said with a smile that calmed time itself, "the universe is vast, and each star holds a fragment of wisdom. You were placed here not by chance, but to be a channel of light, a beacon that will help others find their way even in the densest darkness." I feel a peace I've never known," I replied, almost overwhelmed by the intensity of that encounter. "But at the same time, it's hard to accept that everything I've lived, all the pains and mistakes, had a greater purpose." God leaned slightly as if wanting each word to settle deeply within my being. "Everything, from the moments of greatest darkness to those of brilliant light, composes the grand mosaic of life. And you, Kwylan, are a vital piece in this divine work. For moments that seemed eternal, we remained there, immersed in a silent dialogue where each beat of my heart vibrated in harmony with the teachings I received. I felt that the encounter was not just a revelation for me, but a transfer of knowledge, a seed planted to bloom in future journeys. Still immersed in the divine aura of that encounter, as God's words resonated within me, I sensed a change in the atmosphere. The clearing of light expanded, and around us, a vibrant energy announced something extraordinary. God, with a deep and mysterious gaze, leaned slightly toward me, as if wanting to share a long-guarded secret. "Kwylan, pay attention!" God said with a voice soft yet firm. There is a cycle approaching, a spiritual rebirth that will transform the destiny of humanity. My emotions were mixed. On one hand, there was a natural unease in the face of the unknown, but on the other, an intense curiosity and a longing to understand the meaning of this new time. Amid this whirlwind of feelings, an image began to form before my eyes. The celestial calendar marked a date, April 2025, a crucial point called the 0 day of the new era. 0 day? I asked, my voice trembling and full of expectation. Yes, my child, God replied. On 0 day, a portal of light will open, connecting all beings to a new consciousness. This is the moment when humanity will have the opportunity to purify, elevate, and embrace a truth that transcends matter. As God spoke, I saw in the distance a projection of pulsating light that seemed to announce the beginning of this era. Each pulse carried a message of transformation and hope. God continued, "This cycle is not destructive, but rather a rebirth, a spiritual renewal that will re-establish the lost balance. Those who are prepared, having nurtured the flame of faith and compassion, will be rewarded with a deeper connection to the divine." The revelation unfolded like an intricate and beautiful tapestry. I felt each word was imprinted on my heart, awakening a sense of responsibility and, simultaneously, a profound gratitude for being chosen to witness this great event. But how can I prepare for something so grand? I asked, eager to understand the importance of this universal call. Preparation, Kweilon, is not something that can be forced. It is the natural blossoming of the spirit, a journey of self-discovery and unconditional love. The global transformation that approaches reflects the internal changes each being must experience, God explained. His voice was like a beacon in the darkness. The image of the portal of light intensified, revealing luminous figures moving in perfect harmony, representing awakened and connected souls. This celestial spectacle symbolized the union of all beings, regardless of their beliefs or origins, in a single purpose: to evolve and embrace a new era of consciousness. I felt the entire universe conspired for this transformation. God emphasized, "Many will be oblivious to this change, blinded by the illusions of the material world. But those who hear the call and open themselves to the truth will be the heralds of this new time. On day 0, love and wisdom will prevail. And you, Kweilon, will have a crucial role in this transition." As I absorbed these words, I felt as if a seed of hope was planted within me, ready to bloom in the new era that was approaching. The revelation of day 0 not only clarified my purpose, but also indicated that every small action, every gesture of kindness, had the power to transform the world. At that moment, the clearing was flooded by a radiant light that seemed to unite heaven and earth, and I knew I was witnessing the herald of a global rebirth, an era where the divine would be present in every heart, marking the beginning of a new journey for all humanity. After the revelation of the new cycle and the promise of day 0, the atmosphere around me began to transform again. As if the universe wanted to lead me to a final and profound chapter of this journey, I was guided by the angel, who now led me with even greater serenity to a magnificent building that rose before me, imposing and filled with an aura of mystery. It was the Celestial Library, a temple of eternal knowledge that contained, in its infinite shelves, the secrets of all ages. As I entered this sanctuary of light and wisdom, I felt that each step was a dive into an ocean of history and revelations. The walls were lined with shimmering marble, and the architectural details seemed to have been sculpted by divine hands, reflecting the harmony between heaven and earth. Around me, thousands of books rested on shelves that stretched as far as the eye could see. Each volume radiated its own energy, as if it carried within it the experiences and lessons of countless lives. Kweilon, each of these books holds the essence of a story, a learning that the universe decided to record for eternity, commented the angel as we walked among the shelves. His voice sounded like an ancestral whisper, full of reverence and mystery. As I approached one of the shelves, my fingers trembled with emotion as I touched a book that seemed to pulse with its own life. Upon opening it, I was surprised to see that it recorded my entire existence, from the first steps of my childhood to the most intense moments of my journey. Every detail was meticulously described, and the emotions, choices, and past encounters were presented in golden letters that softly glowed in the dim light of the environment. "It is your story, Kilon," said the angel with a smile, as I leafed through the pages with a mix of surprise and melancholy. "Here lies the knowledge of who you were and who you can become. Each chapter, each mistake, and each triumph has a greater purpose." In a more secluded corner of the library, I found another singular tome. Upon opening it, I was enveloped by a symphony of notes and chords that told the story of the music of the entire earth. That book seemed to be a universal score, where each melody and each silence combined to form the soundtrack of human existence. I was amazed by the idea that, just like my life, music was an expression of the divine, capable of touching souls and transforming realities. As I explored the vastness of that sacred place, the feeling of belonging and humility intensified. Amidst the books and the accumulated wisdom there, I realized that knowledge was not confined only to the past. It opened up, like a gateway to the future, where transformation and self-discovery were fundamental for a new era. The angel stopped in front of a richly decorated shelf and commented that the Celestial Library was not just a repository of stories, but an invitation for each soul to expand its understanding and discover the truth within itself. I was overwhelmed with a wave of emotion and gratitude. Amidst the vastness of knowledge, I realized that my journey did not end with the review of my life, or with divine revelations, but extended beyond the limits of time and space, challenging me to continuously seek wisdom and illuminate the path for those still searching for answers. Before all the grandeur I witnessed, the celestial scene began to transform again. After the immersion in the Celestial Library, where every story and every melody of the universe seemed to unravel the mysteries of existence, I was led to a room with a tranquil aura, where the presence of Jesus was felt in a special way. He awaited me, with a serene demeanor and a welcoming gaze, as if he already knew the anxieties and desires that pulsed in my heart. "Quailon," said Jesus in a soft yet firm voice, "the time for choice has come. You can remain here, in this realm of light and wisdom, where all pains vanish and peace is eternal, or return to Earth, to the world you know, where your mission is yet to be fulfilled." These words resonated within me like an irresistible call. The environment around seemed to vibrate with the energy of the infinite, and the contrast between celestial peace and earthly reality became increasingly evident. As Jesus spoke, I felt a mixture of longing and apprehension. Staying there meant living in a state of constant harmony, a refuge where the soul would never suffer. However, the memory of beloved faces, especially my mother, Sophia, and friends like Evelyn and Damien, brought forth the love and responsibility awaiting me on Earth. I feel so much of the peace here, the fullness you offer me. But my heart still longs for my mother's embrace, for simple conversations, and even for the challenges that shaped me, I confessed. My voice choked with emotion. Jesus tilted his head, as if understanding the complexity of my feelings. "The choice is yours, Quailon. If you choose to return, know that a part of this peace and wisdom will remain rooted in you. Even if many details fade, the essence, the love that now dwells in your heart, will never be forgotten." Silence took over for a few moments, as my thoughts wrestled between the allure of paradise and the urgency to return to my earthly life. Around me, the celestial environment continued to exude an unshakable calm, but I saw in every beam of light that penetrated the room the reminder of human challenges, pains and hopes that still pulsed on Earth. A gentle, almost imperceptible voice whispered, "Quailon, the true greatness of life is not in fleeing from pain, but in transforming it into learning and love." These words, perhaps coming from the universe itself, or the divine essence surrounding me, deeply touched my spirit. Tears began to form in my eyes, blending gratitude with the sadness of parting from such a sublime place. I knew that remaining there, in a state of perfection, would mean giving up human warmth, challenges, and above all, the love of those who still needed me. "Jesus, I choose to return," I declared, with a conviction that mixed sadness and hope. "I return, so that even if I forget many details, this inner light guides me and helps me transform pain into love for those I cherish." Jesus smiled, and the environment seemed to shine even more intensely, as if the choice had sealed a destiny of redemption and purpose. Then so be it. Keep this light in your heart, for it will illuminate your path even in the darkest moments. With these words, I felt a powerful transition beginning. The call to return to Earth was inevitable, but the certainty that I would carry with me the legacy of love and transformation I had experienced in that celestial realm gave me the strength needed to face what lay ahead. When the choice to return to Earth was sealed, I felt a wave of transition enveloping me completely. The celestial environment began to dissipate slowly, giving way to a gentle mist and the distant echo of voices and whispers. I felt my soul being pulled, as if time itself bent to reintegrate me into my inert body. Still lying in a hospital bed in Los Angeles, the sensation was simultaneously sudden and peaceful. Upon waking, I recognized the familiar contours. From the room, the sound of machines monitoring my heartbeat and the worried faces around me. Jasper Reynolds, the doctor who became my pillar of hope, stood by my bed with an expression of relief and surprise. "Quillan, you're back," he exclaimed, his voice full of emotion. "Your heart stopped, but miraculously, it started beating again." I tried to respond, but my words came out as confused whispers, still caught between life and death. As the days turned into a routine of rest and recovery, each moment was marked by a sense of rebirth. The nurses and doctors cared for me with a delicacy that seemed to reflect the divine intervention I had experienced. In brief conversations, I heard them comment, almost like a legend, about that moment when a man's vital signs faded and returned as if an invisible force had reignited them. Amidst this whirlwind of medical care, my mother, Sophia Mercer, entered the room with a mix of relief and disbelief on her face. One morning, as the sun timidly entered through the curtains, she approached carefully, holding my trembling hand. "My son, what you experienced." "I still can't believe it," she said, her voice choked, and her eyes filled with tears of relief and amazement. I tried to explain, but the words seemed insufficient to express the vastness of the universe I had experienced. However, when mentioning specific details, like the exact description of my great-grandfather, a man I never knew but whose image she held in her memories, I felt the confirmation that my experience had transcended the boundaries of the physical. Each day in the hospital became a chapter of introspection. During long hours of recovery, I reflected on the revelations of the divine encounter, on the promise of Day Zero, and on the choice I made to return to life, to fulfill a greater purpose. Gradually, the celestial memories mingled with the earthly routine, as if a part of me remained eternally connected to that realm of light. On a quiet afternoon, as the gentle rain tapped against the window, I spoke with Jasper again. "Do you really believe what I experienced was real? Or was it just a delusion?" I asked, my voice full of doubt and gratitude. He, with a compassionate look, replied, "Quillan, sometimes the universe touches us in inexplicable ways. What you experienced might be the reconnection between body and soul. Science doesn't yet understand all the mysteries, but the fact is you came back, and now you have the chance to transform your pain into light." The recovery was not only physical but also spiritual and emotional. After 12 days in the hospital, I realized that each breath was a gift, and that the experience left an indelible mark on me. The pain, loneliness, and dissatisfaction that once dominated me gave way to a silent hope and the conviction that true life was a gift. The transformation began from the inside out. Today, even living a simple life, I carry with me the memory of each revelation, each divine touch, knowing that with every heartbeat, the mission to transform and illuminate continues to pulse.